Welcome back to the second part of PHP for Web Design Unit 14, HNC in Computing and Systems Development. And in the first part, we were just looking at the structure of PHP scripts to connect to a remote database sitting on a remote server, and I discussed the importance of connection opening and closing and the vulnerabilities inherent in that process. You can see in this particular PHP script that we have nested inside of the HTML container, we have a MySQL table viewer, and the purpose of this PHP script is to display the view of a MySQL table within a database. So we're using the PHP function db host, and we're giving the specific address of that database host, which will be the domain name of the server, and that will depend on the temperament and the inclination of the systems administrator owning and managing that particular server. And then we have access to the username of that particular remote server. Notice that in the database host name, we are ending it with the URL extension. So you've got the main domain of the institution, in this case University of Kent, so kent.edu, ending in :3306. Now that denotes the port number that is required for a SQL database running at the back end of a PHP website. Okay, you need access to that port to actually open up the database connection, otherwise you won't have a live connection to the data. And then you can see that the database password is encrypted, so that's not visible. And then you need to define the name of the database, which in this case is db user, the name of the table to display, which in this case is account, and then you need to open up the connection, the live connection to the database. That's achieved through $connection MySQL_connect, and then you've got the three key pieces of authentication that you need to be able to access that database. You've got the name of the database host that you'll need to get hold of, the name of the database user, that would be yourself, and then your database password, and that would normally be issued by the database administrators for your project, unless you're managing your own database system. In this example, we're using the post request to output the display of the table and view that table. So previously we've defined the name of the table that we would wish to display, and we've specified the rows and the fields of that database to display. So we're using the post request to get hold of that table, and then opening up that connection. And then you can use the structured query command select from, and specify the data to retrieve and display from.
James?
Yeah.
What does the die stand?
So what that means is, if that connection fails, and if it's unsuccessful, then it's to close the connection.
Does that like print out? Give a pop-up as well?
It doesn't, no. And it will shut down that connection. So that's the extent of the security on PHP. It's normally tighter at the DBA end, on the back end. But what you don't want is, by default, the connection to remain open indefinitely. You want to set parameters so that that connection is going to be closed and cut off. And it's good practice in any database administration process that when you're dealing with PHP data and spitting that out to the front end, to close that database connection, you must end that session. You can't just leave the database running openless. Okay, it's very insecure, very bad practice to do that. It's good practice to close the connection. So we're ending with, we're getting their results, the MySQL free results, and then we're closing that connection, MySQL close the connection. That is the correct syntax. That is the same syntax that I have used to close my database connections. MySQL underscore close, parenthesis, $ connection, close parenthesis, end statement. That will close your database connection. What are the main functions, ready-made functions that we are going to use when manipulating back-end data on a LAMP stack or a WAMP stack or an XAMPP stack? We've got the MySQL Connect. That will open up your live connections to the data sets on the server. You've got the ability to query those databases. You've got the ability to select specific databases. If you look at my original map, you will see that I had access to more than one database. So using those commands, I was able to drop into a specific data set for a specific website project. And then we've got the MySQL close connection, which will close off that database connection. A bit of history on PHP. It's fairly young, 1995, and Perl had a new lease of life. Perl was a crusty old Unix text and scripting language that extended the capability of grep. Grep is arguably the most powerful Unix Linux command. You can search any file on any system using grep, and you can manipulate that text. Furthermore, you can add programming functions to the text that's retrieved and manipulated by grep. Perl then extends that, but Perl was reborn from the early days of Larry in 1987. Perl began to dwindle, die a death, and then in the mid-90s it was reborn because you had Common Gateway Interface added with mod_Perl functioning with Apache servers. What that meant is that Perl could be redeployed as a web development programming framework. So it was kind of reborn, but then when PHP came along, it blew Perl CGI out of the water because it was a specifically best of breed for, as I said before, for server-side scripting. PHP 5 is stable and is the version that I developed on, but we're now up to version 7. PHP 7 is the current version. The IT community, and I can say this with confidence, hasn't fully adopted PHP 7 with confidence. You talk to professional web developers in the main today, and they will be playing it safe with PHP 6. I'd be curious to know what versions of PHP you're currently deploying and developing.
Maybe I'm in the middle of migrating.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it depends on who you're working for. A staid, conservative, play-it-safe company like Port Dover will be probably using PHP 5 still. A kamikaze, let's take maximum risk and go with it company like Saga, I could put money on them already using PHP 7 just because it's the latest possible version. They use the latest version of everything. But yeah, there are some slight differences in functionality and feature set between the different versions. So when you use and buy a desktop reference guide like the O'Reilly series, they'll very clearly explain which version is covered within that manual. So on this particular version, goes back to PHP 4. Okay. So, what sites would I recommend for getting deeper into PHP? I've referred to PHP and MySQL. initially started off with a pure PHP manual, and then, as I said before, the deeper you get into PHP, the more you realise that there's this huge overlap with the MySQL database system. So the two become quite inseparable if you're dealing with that framework. So for that reason, the Dummies guides have issued a combo of PHP and MySQL. You often see these bundled. Another good one I came across was there's a series called Teach Yourself. They're very small, lightweight books. They're inexpensive to buy secondhand, and they've bundled MySQL with PHP as well, with a picture of a cat on the front cover for no particular reason. More useful, I feel, in the world of PHP are the website resources. Some of the best ones are here. Now, the de facto go-to knowledge base for PHP is at php.net. That should be your first port of call. In the world of Python, the equivalent of that is python.org. It's the authority on that language. Other useful sites, phpbuilder.com. You've got code generators. DevShed is a useful community of developers. PHPMyAdmin I've mentioned before. Now what that is, it's a very useful front end for manipulating web host services, databases, and PHP services. And it's, you're using it from your client workstation to punch and tunnel your way back into the host and manipulate PHP data. Hotscripts.com, there's some freshly baked recipes. Codeproject.com, php.net downloads is a great place to actually download PHP itself. Now, a word of advice about downloading PHP, which we will need next Friday. Various different approaches to this, various different notions of what would be the best thing to do. Option 1, just download the PHP kit, the toolkit. Great if A, you already know PHP, and B, you're very confident on the command line interface, and you can do everything on the command line. Okay. Downside of that is if you just download PHP in the way that you would just download Python 3 to use with idle, the downside of that is you would have to manually install, standalone, your MySQL database and your Apache or ISS server, which is time consuming, and all of the versions have to match each other.
So, you run into that severe problem.
Oh yeah. Severe problems. Even just one update of one of the layers in your stack can cause a domino effect catastrophe of version incompatibility. Okay? So that's option 1. Great if you know what you're doing. You're advanced. I don't recommend that we do that for this Friday. Option number 2 is to download a ready-made LAMP stack or a WAMP stack. If you're running on a Windows machine, install a WAMP stack. You can get them ready-made. A WAMP stack has already got the correct version control numbering for your Apache server, your MySQL database, and your PHP. And you can choose which version of all 4 components in every combination. You run it as an executable file, and it just works out the box. That's option number 2. LAMP stack or WAMP stack. If you're on a Linux server, you download LAMP. And that can be through any Linux package management system. That can be through Debian, DPKG, .deb, Red Hat, RPM, through the command line itself, Aptitude. And WAMP, as I said, can be for your 64-bit, 32-bit, Windows binaries, executable, easy peasy. Option 3 is the best option of all, which is the one that I gave to Luca at the top of my head last thing on Friday afternoon, when he said, what do we need to install and run PHP? And off the top of my head last Friday, without any hesitation, I wrote this. This is from last Friday. XAMPP. Now that, for this room, is the best option. Okay? It is ideal for safe experimentation of PHP within a classroom. It will set up and pre-configure a stack which will work on a corporate network or a college network. Also, by the way, you can run XAMPP on a virtual machine, which I've done. About 3 years ago I was teaching on XAMPP running inside of a VM. So you can just install it on the VM and run it directly, very easily. It's great outside the box, and yeah, it just works. And you can use all the graphics tools.
So that's complete.
It's complete.
The stack and the
Yep.
MySQL.
Yeah, it includes the stack as well. What code editor did I use mainly as a PHP developer when I was working as a software developer? Well, to be honest, it was before I discovered Sublime. If I was doing it nowadays, I'd probably use Sublime. But actually, sheer simplicity and licensing, Notepad++. I found to work very well with PHP, with the syntax highlighting and the color coding, and the fact that it was very easy to install on all layers of virtualization and all the servers.
Or you can use Regular.
Yeah. So what I think we could do next Friday, if you wanted to, is you could create your own. We could install XAMPP if we can get permissions, either on a virtual machine, or we can run it locally, or you can bring it in on your laptops, whatever. And then you can create your own directory, public HTML in your own directory, and then create 2 simple PHP scripts, and then see if you can visualize that on localhost. Also, I would refer you back to WC3 Schools, because they've got some really great little sandpits that you can try out PHP on. And Code Academy have got a PHP module. Now, I want to tell you a quick story about this, because this is absolutely unreal, absolutely amazing. So, at the beginning of the course, I said that I wanted each and every person on the course to be working in IT, and like Patrick is, and I wanted you to be going to work and then capturing evidence. So, and that's always been the case on level 4. It's like 80% of level 4s have been working in the IT industry, rather than a checkout in the supermarket, which is really detrimental because it saps your energy and you're using time when you're normally getting evidence to not be doing IT, which is really detrimental. So, so Gary, here is a fix. Try this. This is unbelievable. Everything I'm about to tell you is true. So, 2011, I'm teaching level 3 BTEC IT 2010 specification in the room at the end of this corridor, currently being used by maths. It used to be called Block A, Area A. And one of my students was a distinction level 3 student called Jason, okay? And I was working with Julia Cooper in that room. And he was just acing every unit. He was getting 9 distinctions easily, and then saying, what next? Give me some more work. So to keep him busy, whilst everyone else was struggling with client-side customization and web design, what I did is I got him to complete, first of all, to complete WC3 Schools in PHP, which he did very quickly and easily, and to take screenshots of all of his versions of PHP code, which is what I've done on my blog. On my blog, Linux System Administration.blogspot.com, I've tried adapting and customizing PHP scripts and putting them on my blog as my interpretation of them. It's a great way of showing that you understand a script, is to customize it and make it your own, and change all the variables to your local circumstances and examples. So I got him to do WC3 Schools, which he did quite easily, and then just at that time, way back in 2011, they released Code Academy for PHP. So he did Code Academy for PHP. What happened next is extraordinary and true. He got the badges for PHP, the certifications. He then went into LinkedIn, he built a CV, an online CV on LinkedIn, which I was nagging you to do in September, which you ignored me. And then he embedded PHP into his CV. So he said, I've been working on a portfolio for web design, I've done my own PHP scripts, which of course he had done, because he had all of his own versions of the WCV scripts in a portfolio. He then had a dummy website that he tried, and he did his own PHP scripts. He then got the badges for, and he had certified in PHP on his CV, and his core skill sets. He said that from the moment he did that, and his CV went live, he was getting bombarded with phone calls with job offers. And I didn't believe him when he first said that. I was like, what, really? What, just by doing that? Is PHP really in that much demand right now in Kent? Is it really that much in demand? I didn't believe him, so I tried it myself. So I did Code Academy, got my badge, put it on my CV. Within 15 minutes I got a job offer for working in PHP, within 15 minutes. PHP is very hot, it's in demand. It's the opposite of Java. Where Java, you've got the saturation of Java through the manufacturer of Java graduates at University of Kent for 3 decades, or 2 decades, with sponsorship from Sun Microsystems and with the work of Michael Golling. With PHP, you've got the opposite. You've got this complete hunger and demand for PHP and a complete lack of PHP developers. Okay, so I would set that, particularly for you, I'd set that as a challenge. Complete WC3 Schools sandpit in PHP, customize your own scripts, save them as your own intellectual property for your portfolio, blog them, go into Code Academy, complete PHP, cash in the badge certificate, go back to linkedin.com, advertise yourself as a PHP developer, and see how long it takes you to actually get a job interview. Now, Jason got a job interview within days. The college called him up, the Moodle back-end part of the college called him up and said, can you please come to interview? He travelled to interview to Tunbridge, which is where the other college was. He got an on-the-spot job with the Moodle team. Quite lucrative. Bearing in mind, this is just, 18-year-old kid doing BTEC. He's got a job like that, okay? So if you're really hungry for a job in IT right now, you can't go wrong with PHP. The demand outweighs the availability of the skills. Okay. So for next Friday, what we need for next Friday is for you to complete W3 Schools and Code Academy in PHP, and then for us to get hold of XAMPP and then run our own PHP workshop and produce at least one PHP script, working script that we can show. And okay, that doesn't sound very challenging, but look at all the groundwork you need to do just to get PHP running. You need a systems architecture, you need a stack, you need access to the host, remote access to the host, you need access to the database and the database connection. So, it's not trivial. It's not just like running a JavaScript in a web browser with Notepad. You need all of this systems architecture in place.
W3 Schools is all about the PHP part of W3 Schools.
It is, yeah. It's a PHP course. No, just PHP. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? No? Okay, Joy, shall we stop there? Thank you very much, everyone.